Welcome back to Two Peas in the Kitchen.
Today, we are going to break down how to make cinnamon rolls. If you feel intimidated about working with yeast dough, or you've ever wanted to make cinnamon rolls and you feel like it's just something you can't do, we're going to show you how easy it really is to make them. It is one of our favorite things to make. And once you watch this video, you're going to get so good at it, you'll never have to buy cinnamon rolls in the store again.
Keep watching because you're not going to want to miss this.
Okay, so we're going to go ahead and get ready with our dry ingredients here. So one of the things I just want to talk about really quick about making the dough for our cinnamon rolls and our breads in general, we've talked about this in our other videos, is how important it is to use a kitchen scale with your dry ingredients. If you don't have a kitchen scale, we recommend you get one, but for today, I'm also going to give you the cup measurements and we'll provide those in the recipe along with this video. So the first thing that we're going to do here is we're going to put, this is 720 grams. This is all-purpose flour. We use King Arthur organic all-purpose flour, but whatever all-purpose flour you have. And the equivalent of that is 6 cups of all-purpose flour. So we're going to put that in our big bowl here. And the next thing that we have is 100 grams. This is just regular cane sugar. If you don't have a scale, the equivalent is 1/2 cup of sugar. The next thing that I have here is our yeast. This is 9 grams of yeast, and the equivalent of that is 1 tablespoon of yeast. The next thing we have is salt. This is 14 grams of salt. The equivalent of that is 2 1/4 teaspoons of salt. And our next dry ingredient, this is milk powder, which may seem like a strange ingredient, but you can buy it in the grocery store. You'll find it where mostly the baked goods are, where the flour and such is. And this is 35 grams of milk powder, and the equivalent of that is 1/4 cup of dry milk powder. So before I add anything else into that, I'm just going to take a fork and just incorporate all of our dry ingredients. Make sure the yeast is all spread evenly into the dry ingredients, just like that. Okay, so the next thing that I have here, this is 56 grams of unsalted butter, which is the equivalent of about 1/4 cup. This has been sitting at room temperature. It's nice and soft, and I'm just going to use my fingers and break the unsalted butter into little tiny pieces and put it right into the dry ingredients. I used to be very, very intimidated by any recipe that required yeast to make dough. The first yeast dough recipe that I ever started to work with was cinnamon rolls. My kids absolutely loved cinnamon rolls, and I really wanted to learn how to make an alternative to the really toxic, junky cinnamon rolls that come in the can that you buy in the grocery store. I think that you are going to be really surprised how easy these are. And the other thing we're going to talk about later is that you can make these in advance, which means they're really just as easy to make and to have to serve on a special morning as the ones you pop out of a tin. Okay, so all of the little pieces of butter are broken up into the dry mixture. So I'm just going to take my fork, kind of coat all the butter with the flour, mix it all in there together. And then the last thing we're going to add in here is this egg. And I'm going to mix that up a little bit, and then we're going to get our water ready, and we'll pour that in. I just mixed that in a little bit. And by the way, this is just 2 eggs. I went ahead and pre-mixed the eggs before I mixed them in with the dough. You don't have to do that, but I just think it incorporates a little bit better if you beat the eggs a little bit before you put them in the dough. Now I'm going to go ahead and get our water ready, and I'm going to talk to you a little bit about water temperature. Okay, our last ingredient for our dough is our water. This is 315 grams of lukewarm water. The temperature is important. You don't want really cold water, and you also don't want really hot water. It would cause the yeast to start activating too quickly. So it just feels a little bit warm to the finger. Not quite as hot as a bathtub, but just a little warmer than like how your skin feels. So we're going to go ahead and incorporate this right into our dough. And then you're going to just mix everything together until it is incorporated into kind of a shaggy dough ball. It'll start to form a little bit of a ball the more that we mix it. Now that my dough is more incorporated, I've switched from a fork to using this bowl scraper. If you don't have one of these and you love to bake and you like to make doughs, it doesn't even matter what you're baking. These are awesome. This is a great way to make sure that you're incorporating. See the dry ingredients in the bottom that I'm trying to make sure get incorporated into my dough. This makes it really easy. And also I'm making sure that I'm getting all of the good stuff off the side of the bowl. The other thing is when you're making dough, you do not want to ever put any of the dough down your garbage disposal. This is a great way to clean your bowl. So we always make sure that we use the scraper all around the outside of the bowl and put the remnants of whatever's left in the bowl into the garbage. It ends up turning almost into paste in your garbage disposal or in your sink, and it can really cause a lot of problems. So this is a very useful kitchen item to have. They're not expensive. We each have a couple of them and we use them all the time. Okay, this is ready, and what we're gonna do now is our resident expert kneader, Rafi, is gonna show you guys all how to knead the dough. Go.
Okay, so now is the kneading portion of the cinnamon rolls. It's not going to take that long. It's only about 5 minutes or so, but there's a few things to keep in mind. So we have our pastry board here. This is a very nice pastry board. You don't need one that has the circles like this. There's actually a ruler on both sides. It comes in handy when you're making pie crust and need the dough to be uniform. You can use any cutting board that you have. So we have our dough here. We have a little bit of our all-purpose flour. And what I'm going to do first is, you don't want to add a ton of flour. You just kind of like to sprinkle it a little bit like this so that the dough doesn't stick. And now I'm going to take our flexible, these are really totally worth it. They're so inexpensive. They're going to make your life a lot easier. So I'm just going to simply take the dough. It's already just in a ball. I can pick it up with my hands, but I'm just going to plop it right on our pastry board. And as you can see, it's very irregular. We're gonna shape it into a nice ball of dough that's nice and smooth. So this is the process that Bess and I learned when we took our bread making class at King Arthur. This is what I'm going to show you right now. Okay, so this is actually not a terribly sticky dough at all, which is nice. So this is a process that you're going to use. It'll be about 5 minutes. So you're going to want to fold it 90 degrees and then gently push it, turn, and then fold it, push, turn. And you're just going to keep repeating that. You don't want to apply too much pressure at first until your dough forms. So fold towards you, push, turn 90 degrees. You will have to add a little bit of flour. So I can tell already this is almost about to start to stick. You don't want the dough to stick. So I'm just going to you don't need that much, just a tiny bit. Fold, push, turn. And you're just going to keep doing that a few times until the dough ball will start to become a little bit more cohesive and smooth, and then you can apply a little bit more pressure. So again, fold, push, turn 90 degrees. Fold, push, turn. So I can actually tell now the dough, I'm just going to turn it around. You can see it's a little bit smoother already. And it's not sticking, so I'm going to go ahead and apply a little bit more flour and a little bit more pressure because I want it to really be a nice, cohesive, smooth dough ball. So you can see I'm applying a little bit more pressure, your arms, your shoulders. There's a little bit of sticking there. Add a little flour. Don't go crazy with the flour. And you're going to do this for about 5 minutes. And I will show you a trick so that you know when the dough ball is actually done and you're done kneading for the next step. Okay, so we're just about done here. It's been about 5 minutes, and I forgot to mention take off any jewelry. I took off my rings and my bracelets because you don't want to use that when you're kneading. So take a look at this. See how nice and smooth it is? And you want to knead it until it looks pretty smooth. And then you're going to just use your finger, press the dough, and you see how that just bounces back. That's what you want. So after you press it, it should bounce back pretty quickly. That's it. It's that simple. Next, we're going to place this dough ball in a bowl and let it rest for 60 to 90 minutes in a warm spot. Okay, so we're going to place this dough ball right back in this bowl. We scrape the inside. And I'm just going to plop it right in and use a clean kitchen towel to cover it. And just place it anywhere in your kitchen, or if you have a warm pantry or closet somewhere that's a little bit warmer, let it rest for about 60 to 90 minutes until approximately the dough has doubled.
Okay, we have a second batch of our cinnamon roll dough that we did that's already done rising, and you can see this is a little bit puffier, it's doubled in size, and this one is ready for us to go ahead and roll out. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna put, like we did before, just a little bit of flour out here. We're gonna use our bowl scraper. We're gonna get that nice, oh, it's really nice and puffy. It has a nice texture. So one of the things that we did not mention while we were mixing all of our ingredients is this actually makes 2 recipes of cinnamon rolls. So what we're going to need to do now before we roll out our dough is we're going to need to divide this in half. So I'm using a more sturdy bench scraper here, or you can use a knife. It does not have to be totally perfect. I'm just going to kind of estimate about half, and I'm just going to use that to cut this into 2. And I'm going to put one off to the side. And then what we're going to need to do with this is we're going to need to get this rolled out with a rolling pin into a flat rectangle that's about 12 to 14 inches in size. So the first thing that I like to do when I'm doing this is start to use my hands a little bit before I start to use a rolling pin, just to kind of begin to form it into a rectangle. Just makes it a little bit easier before you start rolling it. I'm going to be using a marble rolling pin to roll out the dough. Works really well with dough. It doesn't stick, it's cooler, which is really great when you're working with doughs that have butter in them because it doesn't melt the butter too much. It's particularly great when you're doing scones or pie crusts where keeping the butter intact is a little bit more relevant, but it's my preference to use a marble pie crust. Okay, so I have this rectangle kind of loosely formed, and now I'm going to actually use a rolling pin to start to roll that out. So this does not have to be perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but you just want to kind of use your hands as you need to. Now, if your dough starts sticking a little bit, which mine is, just go in with a little tiny bit of flour in there, because you're going to need to be picking that up when it comes time to roll your cinnamon rolls. And you just keep rolling it and working with the dough until you get that rectangle. So one of the things that really used to intimidate me about working with yeast doughs is that I always felt like it was always zapping back into the wrong shape, and I couldn't get it to stretch into the shape that I wanted, and I always felt like it was sort of user error. It does require a little bit of patience. You're not doing anything wrong, and you can use your hands to stretch it. The more you work with it, it'll stretch and kind of stick in its form. But one of the things I like to do is just kind of flatten it like that, and you can see that it'll start to form more of a proper rectangle. You can just use your hands like that to kind of press it into that shape. But it does take a little bit of patience and a little bit of effort, and you're not doing anything wrong if it's zapping into the wrong shape, or it's not holding your rectangle. And like I said before, this does not have to be totally perfect. It just needs to be an approximate rectangle so that you can roll up your cinnamon rolls.
Okay, now it's time to apply our filling. So we have half a cup, it's 100 grams of light brown sugar, approximately half a cup of packed brown sugar in this bowl. And then we have 2 teaspoons of a good cinnamon. I'm just gonna plop that right in. give it a good stir. And we're going to distribute this on top of our rolled dough after we brush it with water. So the reason we want to brush it with water first is so that this will actually stick a little bit. And so I'm just going to go ahead and I just have this little silicone brush, and I'm just going to brush the entire rolled out cinnamon dough lightly with water. Okay, so now I have this whole thing brushed with water lightly, and I'm going to distribute the brown sugar and cinnamon mixture. I'm just going to use my hands. You want to distribute it everywhere, but leave a little bit at the bottom without any sugar mixture. Because what we're going to do after that is we're going to roll it towards us, and you want a little bit that doesn't have the brown sugar mixture so that it can stick to itself. So I'm just going to take this. It's a little messy, but that's okay. It'll be all worth it. Okay, so I just have a little bit left here. I'm going to roll it over this way when I'm done, and I'm leaving this portion without any sugar mixture. And that way, it'll actually stick to itself. So I'm just going to maybe draw a little line there with the sugar mixture. This smells amazing already. All right, now we're going to roll the dough. And again, I left this without any sugar. So I'm going to start over here and gently grab the dough. And then I'm just going to very gently roll. There we go. Once you get going, it's a little bit easier until you have it all rolled like that. Look how beautiful. Okay, now you can see the side. Isn't it pretty? And next we're going to cut it into about 9 equal slices and put it in a pan. Okay, so before we cut the actual cinnamon rolls, we prepared our pan. So this is an 8x8 square pan. So use an 8x8 or a 9x9 square pan is what you want, and you want 9 pieces of the cinnamon rolls. We took a piece of parchment paper just to line the bottom and sprayed the bottom as well as the sides with a little bit of avocado oil just in case, so that your cinnamon rolls don't stick. So I'm just going to set this to the side here. Okay, so you'll want a serrated knife. It'll make your life a lot easier. Now, this is about 12 inches long. And what I like to do before I actually start cutting is I like to just make an indentation with the knife, because you want your cinnamon rolls to be approximately equal in size. They don't have to be exactly the same. So if you really want to do the math, 12 divided by 9 is 1 1/3 inches. So approximately. So I already marked here about 1 1/3 inches. I'm just going to eyeball the rest. So I'll have 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then 9. So they're not exactly even. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to just start cutting here. They don't have to be perfect. A little trick though, this end piece, it's not as flat as this end, so this is the part that you're going to put on like this in the pan. So let me just keep cutting our cinnamon rolls. So we'll have 9 when all is said and done, and then we'll place them in the pan. Okay, so now we have 9 approximately equal cinnamon rolls, and I'm just going to put them in the pan now. So you're going to have 3 rows of 3. And like I mentioned, the end part, you're going to have that at the bottom. So I'm just going to put it that way. So that's the cut end up. And then for the rest of it, it doesn't matter except for the end piece. So I'm just going to go ahead. I'm going to put this portion here. Maybe I'll turn it this way, actually, so it's against the pan. So there's 3. So they fit nice and snug. And then you're going to go 3 over this way. Maybe I'll turn it this way. There we go. And then after we have all of our cinnamon rolls in the pan, we're going to cover them and let them rise for approximately 30 minutes covered, and they will get nice and poofy and a little bit bigger, and then we're going to go ahead and bake them.
Okay, so our cinnamon rolls, you can see they've started to fill the pan. They've gotten a little bit poofier. They've risen. They've been sitting in a warm spot for about a half an hour. So right now I have the oven preheating to 350 degrees, and we're getting ready to put these in. They're going to bake at 350 degrees for about 20 minutes. You don't want to overbake them because you want them nice and gooey in the middle. Okay, so we're going to get ready now to make our icing. I have here in this bowl, this is about 2 cups of confectioner's sugar. I have a 1/3 cup of heavy cream, which I'm going to go ahead and pour into there. And I have a teaspoon of vanilla extract. So I'm just going to use a whisk and get that mixed until it's nice and creamy. I may have to add a little bit of extra heavy cream to this. You want to make sure that it is loose enough that it's going to be able to be squirted out of a pastry bag. So you can see here that this is a little too thick. I'm going to add a little bit more cream. Okay, so I'm just going to drizzle in a tiny bit more heavy cream. Just keep a little extra next to you. You just keep drizzling in a little bit until it makes a nice smooth consistency. There, that looks perfect. And you'll be able to just squirt that right out of this pastry bag. We just pour the icing right in, cut the tip off, and then when the cinnamon rolls come out, we'll show you, we just put a little bit of this icing glaze right on top. Okay, the moment of truth is here. Our cinnamon rolls are done. One of the things that's a little bit tricky about doing cinnamon rolls is you want to make sure you do not overcook them. So you can see they're just a little bit golden brown, but you don't want them to be overdone. You want them nice and gooey in the middle. While they're still warm, we're going to ice them right in the pan. You can also cut them and take them out of the pan and put them on a platter or however you're going to serve them and then ice them. But I like to ice them in the pan when they're nice and warm. It just keeps them nice and gooey. We've put the icing into a pastry bag. I've cut the tip off, and you know, it's personal preference how much icing you want to use, but you're just going to take your pastry bag and go ahead and ice your cinnamon rolls. Okay, this is the moment of truth. I just actually said that this is literally probably my favorite thing to eat in the entire world. So everybody listen up.
We don't need a fork.
We don't need a fork.
No.
You can make these beautiful cinnamon rolls. You see how easy they are. Everybody will worship you for making these. And we're going to taste them now. We're going to pick them up with our fingers.
Oh my God.
They're so good. There's nothing better when you have a house full of guests.
Nothing.
To everybody waking up to cinnamon rolls hot out of the oven. It really is one of the most special things that you can bake for the people that you love. These are delicious. We hope that you try it. And I think we're going to eat the whole pan tonight.
Try them and comment in our video and let us know how you like them.
For sure. We hope you love them as much as we do. Now we're going to sign off and go eat all of our cinnamon rolls. Bye.
We'll see you guys next time.